endeavor. It's also very appreciative that you have sort of postponed the tax burden on the business community till at least April of 2022. But my counter argument to your statement about just because there is a larger business district, the tax is going to be lower, but also your infrastructure in maintaining a larger business district is also higher. So that doesn't quite pan out in terms of lowering taxes because you have a larger district to maintain. With regards to providing the private lending, that's also appreciative, and the fact that you've taken out the fact that this DMC cannot purchase properties or lease properties is also good, but also on the other hand, I don't quite understand what managing properties means. Unless you lease or purchase properties, I don't understand how you can manage properties with these things. Overall, again, like I said, there has to be clear accountability established either with the DMC or with the township committee. Without that, we can't go forward, and also has to be real objective criteria for success. Without these, I think we should not go forward. Again, no urgency to this. I think we should postpone this date and discuss continually with the business owners of town, and probably postpone it till at least January of next year, if not more. Thank you.
I can take one of those questions.
Sure. Thank you.
To begin, good morning. Could you tell us where your business is in town and what kind of business it is, just so for the record that we'll have that, please?
We're in downtown Millburn. We're in the short.
Sorry, Dr. Menon, go again. We
Okay.
unmuted you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Are you okay? Good. So we're a pain and aesthetics management business in downtown Millburn in the Short Hill Surgery Center. We rent a small portion of the Short Hill Surgery Center.
Got it. And let me just answer one of your questions. The scope of the larger district, the fixed costs associated with this initiative are the same, whether it's a area of a smaller footprint that was the previous DMDA, but this would engage all of our business districts. So the fixed costs associated with this, the hiring of a director, they would be spread amongst the larger district. And as we enumerated at the township committee meeting, the percentage goes from 0.0011 to 0.00067. So to answer your question, there's not the cost would be lower because it's spread over a multiple area. The fixed costs are the fixed costs. So I disagree that you believe that it would be rising costs associated. It would actually spread the cost amongst more stakeholders in 2022.
I don't know if I'm muted or not, but I agree with you, Mayor Lieber. I completely agree with you that the fixed cost would be the same, but if you have to consider the fact that the variable cost will increase because you are spreading yourself thin over a larger area, and you will have to have more staff if you're servicing, let's say, twice the amount of area.
You
have to have staff. Or and also when you're servicing a larger area, you're doing more work. If you're enhancing facades, if you're managing properties which are much more than what you would do in a smaller area, your variable cost will increase. So just take that into consideration. I mean, we can go back and forth, but I would take that into consideration. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, Nicolas.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So Nicolas Volpicelli, resident, Overlook Terrace. Thank you for your time this morning and for this forum. I do acknowledge the important changes you've made on both the powers, limiting the powers of the CID, as well as on borrowing and owning property. I think those were both very important, and recognizing that there is not as much urgency. I would really caution that this needs to come from a mandate from your business owners and property owners. They really need to be clamoring for this. There needs to be a clear public demonstration by a vote or some other of the people who are going to bear this tax down the road that they want this tax. And so this is a great first forum, but I would think you would want a very clear and public acceptance from the people who will be taxed that they want this tax. And I continue to have reservations around the governance. If it was a 5 Republican member township committee handpicking all of the representatives for the board, I think there would be some discomfort amongst the Democrats in town. And you should always create the governance for these kinds of things to last beyond our terms, beyond the next term, thinking for success 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And so I would encourage the business owners, the taxpayers of this, to have a direct hand in picking their representatives. Thank you for your time. I yield.
Nicolas, I just want to say that anyone and everyone can apply for this. It is the same procedures that are going to be observed as with any board selection for the township.
Right.
So whether it be the zoning or planning or this new bid SID, the selection process is the same. What Mr. Wasserman and I are doing is just acting as a conduit, if you will, for the applicants. No decisions are going to be made exclusively without the approval of the entire TC board. So it is not a partisan issue. It is what the people elected us to do, and to act on policy and help facilitate the process. And that's what we are doing.
If I may follow up, those other entities you mentioned are all currently branches of government, long-standing branches. The DMDA was independent, had an independent board, was not a branch of government. I do think that the government is now funding more of this new SID, and so it's right that you, as the elected representatives, post the TC member and maybe the residents. But the business owners and the landlords, I think, should have direct choice. Otherwise, I fear that this executive director position could become an unaccountable no-show position.
No.
No, that's
It
not.
will be anything but that, I assure you.
We've actually tried. Excuse me. We've actually looked at a lot of other bids, and what we've done to make sure that doesn't happen is the new bid would be housed in town hall. Would be under one roof here. So we are envisioning that that this entity would be an advocate for business and would be a very useful tool. The reason why the mayor and I have jumped into this to try to get this going is that we've talked to a lot of local businesses, and a lot of restaurants in particular are just hanging on. There are a lot of businesses that are just barely paying the rent. And as you see, there are a lot of empty storefronts in town, and we could just let this go. We could just say, you know what, maybe things will turn around. Maybe stores won't go out of business. Maybe we don't care about the businesses in town, but we would like to take action to help our businesses through the township. And bids are an effective way of doing that. It wasn't, the last bid that was here, the DMDA, I think a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into that, and which I really appreciate. But this is a new endeavor, and we're going to try to bring new energy to this to help our businesses and come out of this pandemic.
All right. David Sorkin, you're on. Hold on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Alex, we're good. Hi guys, hi Jackie. Okay, so I have a question for you, Committeeman Wasserman. I'm a business owner and a resident, and if the SID is launched, I want to see it succeed, as all of us should, by the way. Look, whether we agree with it or not, if this is launched, we should all want it to work out for the best. And personally, if it happens, I'll support it in any way that I can. But like a lot of us on this call, I sat through that roller coaster ride of a TC meeting last week. And with all the debate and discussion, I gotta say the biggest surprise of the entire night for me was when you made the comment, not once, but twice, that if this organization launches, you would move to shut it down after a year if you don't think it's successful. Those are your exact words. I wrote them down right here. You said, if this is not impactful, I wouldn't want to continue it after a year or two. And you doubled down on that this morning. And so here's where I've got the issue. I mean, no matter what your position is or who you support, I think everybody, whoever's on this call, realizes at this point that if this initiative passes, the SID is going to be fighting an uphill battle from day one. All right. I mean, first of all, you've already got an extremely vocal opposition that's not going to back down. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Second of all, you're trying to support hundreds of first and second floor businesses in the downtown, Main Street, Chatham Road, Morris Avenue, Upper Milburn. I mean, each of these districts have their own unique challenges and opportunity areas that need to be addressed. I'm not saying it can't be done, excuse me, but it's not going to be easy and it's going to take time. And finally, you're looking to kick this whole thing off in the middle of the worst small business climate that anyone here has ever seen. And that goes well beyond the control of any one organization. And these aren't opinions or positions, by the way. I mean, these are all facts. Okay, so now on top of that, based on your comments last week, if this SID launches, and let's assume that it's going to, the people that you're going to be asking to commit to, support, and volunteer for this organization, from the minute they walk through the door, are now going to be operating under the auspice that a township committee member, the same one who championed the initiative, has openly pledged to shut the whole operation down within a year or two if he feels it's not impactful, without providing any clear definition or substantiation of what that even means. And I mean, so my point is, I think it's only fair that before anything is voted on or launched, and before anyone's recruited to commit their time and support to this organization, you clarify your comments, or at least back them up and share what it is you're expecting to see after a single year, after Mayor Lieberberg is gone, that would cause you to either allow it to continue or to make a motion to shut it down. And I don't expect you to answer that question now on this call. I wouldn't put you in that position, but I will reiterate that if this launches as a business owner and a resident, I would want it to succeed. And I'd want to know that the township is committed to its success. And I do think that your comments were bold enough that they require clarification. And to everyone else in the township committee, I think a clear and reasonable set of expectations for the first year of this program need to be agreed upon and documented before anything is voted on and anyone's brought in to support it. Thank you.
David, thank you so much for your comments, and thanks for bringing that to my attention. And also, I want to thank you for your service, because I know you spent many hours, working on behalf of the township also. So I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate the question that you asked. I think my point was, I think my point was that the old bid, operated for many years, and it did accomplish some things. But I guess what I was saying is that this is a new entity, and I am committed to it. The mayor is committed to it, but we want it to be impactful. We want it to meet its goals, and I agree with you that we need to set a clear, clear goals for what this bid is going to accomplish. And again, that will happen, with a board of trustees. There will be clear goals and clear benchmarks that we will meet. And I'm just saying that, after a certain time period, I also want to make sure that it hits its benchmarks. And I would not be against, doing whatever we have to do to make sure it's successful. I just want to make sure that this isn't, that we have all of our energy into this, and that we make it successful. I just didn't want people to think that we institute this and just let it go on. I want to make sure that we do what we promise, that we support small business, and that we really get a lot of good things done. The last comment I'll make is that you know, want some of our organizations that have popped up, some of the groups that have popped up with a lot of energy, like our flag group, you know, came out of our community, supported the businesses, raised thousands of dollars, and really made a difference. And I'm hoping that that this bid does the same. I'm hoping that we bring a lot of great people from our township forward to join us.
Richard Futter. Yeah. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. First, I want to tell you that I recognize and appreciate all the things that the township stepped up to do on behalf of the businesses when nobody else did. Having said that, I've been around for the entire duration of the previous special improvement district. And what I see in this ordinance actually gives more power to the township. And it does not reflect self-help, it reflects self-financing rather than self-help. Over the years of the last special improvement district, property owners band together and were told that in order to dissolve the special improvement district, you needed enough property owners. Several times we did that. It was overturned by the township committee. This ordinance should not be saying no dissolution, but it should provide for that those that are paying for it should decide whether it continues or dissolves if it should go through. Another problem I'm seeing is that if the special improvement district is enabled to borrow money for improvements, physical improvements in the downtown.
It's not.
From governmental entities.
Oh, from governmental entities. But okay, Richard, finish your thought, and I'll explain to you a situation where that would.
Well, I can explain. I can explain what's pointing me to that. Complete Streets is a perfect example. That was a township project. We all know what happened with that. Downtown took a hit. Public relations were boycott the downtown until it gets fixed. Had that been the special improvement district, then downtown business would not have been the bystander. It would have been the one that was responsible. I don't think any borrowing for any kind of projects like that should actually transfer into a loan that could, in time, become an encumbrance towards the property owners who you're asking to fund this. And I also don't feel that, and I think it should be carved out of the ordinance that if any loans are taken on by the special improvement district, that paying those back should not be included in the figuring of future budgets to the property owners. I'd like to make one more comment. There's a lot of concern about the downtown businesses. I come from retail. My family was in business for just under 68 years there. And I have to tell you, with the last special improvement district, very few of the businesses actually participated in what the offerings were. So I don't hear anything mentioned about property owners other than being assessed. I hear more about wanting to help the businesses. And yes, I feel that should be done, but in different ways. I feel that if they don't have skin in the game, and as long as somebody else is paying for it, they don't get involved.
Well, let me just address the borrowing of money issue. Okay, so say it's December, right? And we're some kind of specialty programming that is in place that needs to be paid for, with the understanding that there's certain expenditures in anticipation, and the bid SID knows that they will be receiving certain receivables from those initiatives, from potential clients, participants. So if in fact they need to float for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is, in anticipation, that would be the case of quote unquote borrowing money. It would be against their potential receivables, not borrowing money for borrowing's sake. It'd be borrowing money for a cash flow situation. That's the way I interpret that, the way it is.
And there's no intention of us, this organization borrowing money to do anything,
With out of their means.
Right. There's no intention to buy property. There's no intention to borrow money. This is about directly helping businesses at a critical juncture. And going to your point in terms of helping commercial property owners, this directly helps commercial property owners. We're supporting, you're investing in small businesses, potentially, depending on the board and the goals that are established. There could be a grant program put into place to support small business. That could be one of, I'm not saying that has to be decided by the bid and their board of trustees. But if there were something like that, that supports small businesses and that supports our property owners. This will help with retail retention, and this will stop, more stores, more open stores in the township. I mean, more empty stores. So this is all hand in hand. And it helps everybody. It should help everybody.
Well, I don't agree with that, and it hasn't worked in the past, and I'm not blaming the DMDA that it didn't work. I mean, it's a different breed of animal here in this town. But this ordinance should not go as far as to even name the management corporation. It should only reflect that the township, through that ordinance, can hire a management corporation. Those two things should not be conjoined. Those legally are two separate things. And also, I tried to get hold of those exhibits A, B, and C that are mentioned in the ordinance, this draft ordinance. I couldn't find it anywhere, and I couldn't retrieve it. And also, there's the potential for 3 different types of funding a downtown management corporation. It could be funded entirely by the township. It could be funded by the property owners, or it could be funded through the businesses through business licensing. Even in its heyday, there was a very small percentage of businesses that actually took advantage of what was happening. So if you're looking for a marketing tool, which is really what you need rather than this, there are different avenues to go through.
Richard, wouldn't you agree, though, that we need to hire an executive director whose sole job is to support a variety of initiatives?
I do agree that there might be something of that nature that could be a good tool. I don't think a special improvement district is needed to do that. I think that could actually be a new position within the township government. Could be a downtown manager, could be a marketing company, but this ordinance also implies that a downtown management corporation could actually interfere with the individual operations between a property owner and a broker, a property owner and a tenant. There are several things that a special improvement district or the township could be doing. The best things that I ever saw as a property owner for the DMDA was being able to help a prospective tenant navigate through the different departments.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be.
But do you need to assess the property owners and create a special improvement district for that?
It's not just that, Richard. the role of this individual is going to be multitasked and multi-layered. It is to work with zoning and planning in the township. It will be work with specialty program. It will be working at marketing initiatives. It is designed to drive community engagement for our residents, and both those that live in Milburn as well as other residents from nearby towns. So we view this organization, I'll speak for Richard and I, as the impetus, if you will, to drive all those kinds of initiatives for Milburn and all of Milburn.
And I do appreciate your concern on this, Richard, and you know, somebody that comes to all the meetings, I see you at every meeting, and I appreciate, you know, your insight on this. But we're envisioning an energetic, you know, executive director that will be focused on our businesses, that will be located in town hall, that will be an advocate for businesses, and if there are issues in terms of new business coming into town, you know, the executive director will be in town hall, and we can sit down with zoning, and it's all under one roof now. So we're hoping that this executive director will be effective for a variety of reasons, and a variety of you know, the scope of this job should really be effective in helping small business either coming into the town, maintaining, you know, staying in the town, and thriving in our town. That's what we're hoping for.
Well, I think that position could be filled within town hall as a township employee person, sort of like a social services for business and properties.
Well, one thing I will tell you that you could have an economic development officer in township, but you know, the way it's set up, you know, the advantage of a bid is that there would be a board of trustees with, you know, with commercial property owners, residents. You know, you'd have a representative board of trustees that would offer, you know, input and guidance. It wouldn't just be, you know, a town hall official. So in a bid situation, you have a representative board of trustees, you know, that will be giving guidance to the executive director. So that is the advantage of a bid. You know, a bid situation. You know, it's a lot more. You know, there's a lot more input. And the other thing is that when you have a bid, you know, the township, you know, there's a potential for a partnership with the township that could be very effective, as they are in other towns like Livingston. So that's really what we're hoping for.
Well, then perhaps this ordinance should be drafted in such a way, just like Mayor Liebersberg was rattling off some of the elements of a job description for an executive director.
Well, Richard, that would all be vetted once we have the board of trustees. And also keep in mind, it's a 7-person board. 4 of those 7, 2 property owners, 2 merchants, 2 residents, and 1 voting TC member. So the power lies, you know, all you know, you have to count to 4. So the power lies not with the TC and the residents. The power lies with the merchants and the property owners to drive this engagement. So
I hear you, but what I'm saying is this ordinance leaves all of that to a group of people that the township committee has already said they're going to decide or okay who's going to.
Richard, everybody, it is an open slate. Anybody can raise their hand and say, I want to be on this. Okay, this is not a closed club.
Okay, but getting to my point,
everybody and anybody that wants to raise their hand, and then we'll make the recommendations to the TC.
Okay, but getting to my point, this document should actually read like a job description as what the management corporation that you're going to hire as a separate entity, a 501c3 corporation, what their guidance is specifically through this ordinance, rather than leaving something for interpretation down the road to this management corporation that will be formed. This should read more like a job description. Here's your parameters. This is what you can do. Here, do it. Not leave anything. It shouldn't be where, okay, the ordinance says we can do this.
Richard, I think that we hear you on that, and that's what our Board of Trustees is going to do. It's going to be very specific in terms of drafting bylaws, specific job description, exact goals. That's what a Board of Trustees is going to do, so that's kind of how it's structured right now. But we hate to cut you off, but we have a lot of other people on. We have a limited amount of time. And I appreciate your input.
Okay, Gene Pasternak. Gene, you're able to unmute, I believe.
Yep, got it. Sorry about that. Thank you again for holding this meeting and for listening to what people had to say at the last meeting. I really admire your willingness to do that, and thank you. I have a few questions. One, if the businesses and property owners are not going to be assessed until after 2022, I guess is what you have said, does that means then the funding for this SID, if it is passed, would come out of the municipal budget? Is that correct, the township budget? So have you thought about where that's coming out of and how that will impact the residents that effectively, the taxpayers, how that will affect the budget? The second question I have is, it sort of follows on from Sue Joy and I think David's comments. I really appreciate their point of view in terms of being able to measure success. They made, I think, different points about analysis and using data and study before going ahead with something like this. I think that's really important. It protects whoever is launching this in terms of being able to explain why you did it and what your expectations are. But it also helps us to know, those who will end up paying for this, what the metrics are that you'll be using to determine success and whether you want to see this continue. So I'm wholly behind their comments regarding measurable goals. And I'd like to know, whether you're open to that idea and how you would approach that. And then a third comment maybe is, or question is, did you have a model of another township or municipality doing a similar ordinance and creating a similar type of entity under the auspices of the township committee or similar governmental body? And have you been able to compare what you've put together with what they've done? Have they been successful or not, and how did they measure? And the last question I have really is about conflicts of interest. Given what Jackie just said, that this is open and people can apply, but ultimately the selection of the members is going to be made by the township committee. If a township committee member or members happen to be business owners, how will that be dealt with? Will they have to be recused of voting, or how will their vote be handled in that instance?
Gene, is there a specific conflict of interest that you're talking about?
I don't have any specific example because I don't know how this entity is going to actually operate, but I'm thinking out loud. Will that ever be a problem, and has that been thought about? That's it. That's what I'm asking.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to respond to you that I think that your comment on measurable goals is excellent. I think Richard Futter's is excellent, and I mean, again, this is a conversation. This is, where we're listening. I think measurable goals are critical, and and that's something that I'd be committed to in moving this forward. We want measurable goals. We want to make sure that we're effective and making an impact for our businesses. With your other questions, Jackie, do you want to?
No, I mean, you talk about deliverables, but that'll be for the once this board of trustees is selected, it'll be for them to hash out, if you will, what their goals and objectives, and whether that be for the first 12 months, 24, 36 months, and look at those goals and objectives. Obviously, they're going to change over time, and the bar will be raised accordingly once the bid SID is mobilized and in place. So yes, as any good organization, Gene, as you know, is as good as the people in it and working towards it. So measurable goals and objectives are certainly a yardstick that we will use to measure the success or failure or successes and failures of this entity.
So
yes, and Alex will address some of. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I'm just going to stay off screen, but just to answer your question, Gene, about a model ordinance. So, in researching the creation of the ordinance, this actually is modeled off of Westfield and Cranford, and how their district management corporation and SID is formed. Where there is a board of trustees that's chosen by the council in Westfield. They also have an advisory board of I think anywhere between 15 and 25 members. So this ordinance is very much drafted with those two communities in mind. In Cranford, in particular, they have the model where the executive director is a portion of the salary is paid by the township of Cranford. So, and I think that, certainly looking, and I'm not going to make a value judgment on success, but I think that those two towns have seen some success in their downtown community. And just to briefly answer the conflict of interest question, I think when you're looking at conflict of interest, it's important to understand the overall impact of any decision. So is it specific, or is it spread out over a large area or an entire business community? So when you're looking at the conflict of interest issue, I think what you're looking at here is that decisions are over an entire business community and not specific to a particular business or anything like that. So that has been looked at and addressed. So.
I guess the most important right now to me as a resident is the budgetary question as well. Where are the funds coming from? If there were to be passed now in the coming weeks, where's the money coming from 2020's budget and 2021? Yeah.
So in 2020's budget, and I think that's also very dependent upon when all of this takes place. So we'll assume, let's just say that the executive director would be brought on for a quarter or even a third of the year. That money is then derived. It would be gotten from where we've had retirements or we've had gaps in various positions, from a retirement to a new hire, and there's where we budgeted money for a particular individual. That money exists because maybe another individual was hired. However, they were hired at a much lower salary, and or we've had a retirement and not filled a position. So there's the ability to be flexible within this year's budget for that amount of money, which would be about a third or a quarter of an executive director's salary. However, if you're looking at 2021, I think you have to, that's got to be part of the township's budget process going forward, to take that into account. And if the SID tax does not go into effect until 2022, there has to be flexibility of what that might mean in terms of what functionality, is going forward. Maybe if the goal of the district management corporation or the SID was to have 10 events, there may only be 2 events, based on whatever can be determined through the budget process for the township for 2021. So it'd be included in that budget process that we go through every year, starting in November. So.
And is there a total number attached to this ordinance that would be required? Is there a total budgetary number? Is it 10, 20, 100, 200, 500? What kind of scale are we talking about?
Well, I think that is yet to be determined. However, I don't think that the committee had any intention of looking beyond what was previously the budget of the District Management Corporation, which was $206,000.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the responses. I would, though, still implore you to not just let the measurement part of this go until this thing is passed and formed. I think it has to be done prior, as David very astutely described, as well as Sujoy. I think it needs to be done ahead of time so that you all are very clear as to what your reasons for doing this are. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to lower all hands because I'm not sure if it's my my managing of it or if everybody had additional comments. So I'm going to lower everybody's hands. But if you have a comment, please be sure to put your hand back up. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to speak?
I do not see any additional hands raised or individuals wishing to make a comment. Oh, there we go. Dr. Menon. He did already speak, but there's no one else that is. So.
Thank you for letting me speak once again. This is Dr. Menon from 21 Elsewhere Road. I will not take that much of your time. So a few things, as you all know, the failure of an organization will be due to three things: lack of accountability, lack of scope, and the lack of objective criteria for success. I'm just imploring the TC right now to just make sure that we have that before we go ahead with this SID, and not depend on the Board of Trustees or the advisory board to come up with that once this has gone forward. So far as I understand that we don't have any specific goals. We haven't done a feasibility study for our town. We're depending upon other towns' studies. There really is no scope of work. There are no objective criteria for success as of yet. And you were really depending on our township budget to fund this for the next 2 years. So I'm just going to stop there. I'm just going to implore the township committee to really reconsider rushing through this. It might be the right thing for the business community. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing, but we just have to think it through so that we sort of define success from the very beginning and not depend on the Board of Trustees to come up with it once this is passed. That's all. Thank you.
Dr. Menon, thank you for your comments, but I do want you to know that, as I said in my opening remarks, a lot of our businesses are really at a critical juncture. A lot of our restaurants are just hanging on, and we're doing this to help our businesses. We're doing this as a tool to try to help the businesses, and there's a lot of different things that BIDS can do to help the businesses in town, and that's what we're trying to do here. We have a downtown. We want a vibrant downtown. We want our businesses to succeed and stay in Milburn. And, that's part of having a successful town. So, that's our, goal. And I do agree there has to be measurable goals. And I'm glad that was brought up today. And that will be, front and center.
All right, I'm going to go to Nadege, as she has not spoken yet. Nadege, I think you can unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Nadege Nicoll. I'm a town resident, business owner, and property owner. I just want to say that as a business owner in this community, currently hurting a lot before COVID-19, I felt like was a strong need for a business improvement district, because I feel like a community communication around what our town can do, bringing people together. I feel this is a very important part of being a community. This has been amplified 100-fold with the current crisis. So I hear people saying that they don't want to rush, they just want this to be a discussion. But to the same token, I also hear people saying they want to have goals and job descriptions, which means this is more than a discussion. I personally think we would all benefit from this. We can start right away with small things that don't cost money, that would be win for the community, that would bring people together. And at the same time, have a midterm plan where we're going to grow this into one unified community. And for one, I'm super excited if this goes forward, and I think we desperately need it. That's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right. Jean, you're on again.
Okay, sorry about that. I just have one last comment. I think this involvement of community members, as per this call today, shows how many good ideas can be generated and discussed. And I just hope that Jackie, in your next communication with residents, which have been really excellent this entire pandemic time, that you just let people know that the Township Committee is doing substantial business from here on out, and that initial comment that you made has really lapsed because of the longevity of this. But I think people just need to know that that's what's happening. And so that if they want to be involved in the meetings, they certainly should be, because it's not just routine matters that are being handled by the Township Committee. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming in this morning virtually and participating in this forum and opportunity for discussion. If there are additional questions, comments that you have after this meeting, please feel free to email Richard and I. We will be happy to continue the conversation. And most importantly, if in fact you would like to participate on this board of the bid sit, we will be holding applications. We will be reviewing applications and starting the interview, well, continuing, I should say, the interview process until Friday. we're going to speak with our fellow TC members about the timetable. We understand the balance between urgency and thoroughness, and I assure you that they will both be addressed. Richard, would you like to have?
And I also want to thank everybody for their time this morning. I know everybody's so busy, just managing their own businesses and their own lives. But I also would encourage you to, if you'd like to get involved, this is an exciting, this is something that could be really helpful to the township. And if you're a property owner or if you're a resident or a merchant and you'd like to throw your hat in with us to get this off the ground, I'd really encourage you to come forward. Everyone is invited, and we'd love to talk to you if you'd be interested in coming forward.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, as I stated, we're going to continue to work on a list of frequently asked questions. You can always check out the website as well, in addition to communicating with Committeeman Wasserman and Mayor Lieberberg. But the website also has additional information, and we'll continue to put information there for the community at large. So with that, we're going to end the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.